On a crowded train, Grace meets Leo, and in a few short hours, her heart knows she has found something rare. But just as suddenly as he appears, he vanishes into the crowd, leaving her with nothing but memories. Years later, fate shocks her with an impossible reunion, but this time the moment comes with heartbreaking complications. Love, destiny, and sacrifice collide in ways she never imagined. The question is, will fate finally bring them together or tear them apart forever? The train moved slowly out of the station. Grace sat by the window watching the trees fly past. She was on her way to visit her aunt in another town. Suddenly, a young man sat beside her. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. His name was Leo. They began to talk. They laughed about silly things, shared stories about their families, and even exchanged snacks. Grace felt something she could not explain. Her heart beat fast whenever Leo looked at her. It felt like she had known him forever. By the end of the ride, Grace knew Leo was special. But when the train stopped, there was so much noise, so many people rushing. Grace turned to say goodbye, but Leo was gone. She looked around, but he had disappeared into the crowd. She didn't even have his number. Grace's chest felt heavy, as if a piece of her was left behind. Years passed. Grace grew older. She finished school, found a job, and tried to live her life. But no matter how busy she became, she never forgot Leo. Sometimes at night, she dreamed of him sitting by her side on that train, smiling. Sometimes she would wake up crying because the dream felt so real. She tried to tell herself it was just a train ride, just a boy she met once. But deep inside, her heart whispered something different. He was the one. She even went back to the same train station many times, hoping to see him again. But every time she left alone. Her friends teased her, saying she was holding on to a ghost. Yet Grace couldn't let go. One rainy afternoon, Grace entered a small bookstore to stay dry. The bell above the door rang softly. She shook her umbrella and walked between the shelves. A book slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. As she bent down to pick it up, another hand reached for it at the same time. She froze. The hand felt familiar. Slowly she looked up. It was Leo. His hair was a little longer, his face older, but his eyes were the same. For a moment they just stared at each other, unable to move. Then Leo whispered, "Grace?" She felt her knees weaken. He remembered her name. The bookstore seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them. They sat at a small table in the corner of the bookstore cafe. Their hands trembled as they held cups of tea. Both of them talked quickly, as if afraid time would snatch them apart again. Leo told her he had lost his wallet the day they met, and in the rush, he couldn't find her. He had looked for her too many times but never saw her again. Grace's eyes filled with tears. She wasn't crazy after all. He had been searching too. But then Leo's face grew serious. He said he was engaged to someone else. Grace's heart dropped like glass shattering on the floor. The joy she had felt was crushed by a wave of pain. She tried to smile, but her lips shook. Leo reached across the table and held her hand tightly. His voice cracked. "I never stopped thinking about you." Days turned into weeks. Grace and Leo met secretly just to talk. They couldn't stay away from each other. Every word, every glance pulled them closer. But guilt pressed heavy on Leo's shoulders. His fiancée, Maria, was kind and gentle. She didn't deserve betrayal. Grace knew it too. One evening she told Leo, "We cannot keep doing this. It will destroy us." Tears ran down her face as she walked away. Leo stood frozen, torn between duty and love. That night, Grace lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She felt broken. Why would fate bring them together only to rip them apart again? She whispered to herself, "Maybe love is not meant to be easy." The wedding day came. Grace was not invited, but she knew about it. She sat by her window, staring at the gray sky, feeling like her heart had stopped beating. But then her phone rang. It was Leo. His voice shook as he spoke. "Grace, I couldn't do it. I walked away from the altar. I want you. I always wanted you." Grace dropped the phone in shock. She couldn't believe it. Minutes later, someone knocked on her door. She opened it, and there was Leo drenched in rain, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He looked at her as if she was the only person in the world. Grace ran into his arms, and for the first time she felt whole again. Fate had torn them apart, but fate had also brought them back. And this time nothing would break them again.